But the nature of this press conference had to change as the rot in Pinellas County proceeds to fester. This time last year, CURED was tackling the issue of the notorious, murderous Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, who in 2016 murdered 3 teenage black girls, Dominique Battle, Lanaya Miller, and Ashanti Butler, and in 2017 inflicted the same fatal fate on 3 teenage black boys, Jimmy Goshi, Desiree Thomas, and Keontae Brown, which Rick Kreisman was completely silent about. And now, this year, the life of another African man, a spouse and a father, was brutally shot and murdered by a plainclothed white man with impunity, as Sheriff Killer Bob Gualtieri ruled it a justified murder based on the Stand Your Ground law, basically granting the right for everyday white people to kill Africans in Pinellas County and get away with it. Is this the kind of sheriff that Kreisman wants to operate within the city of St. Pete? Marquise McLaughlin joins the long list of Africans snatched from our community through vicious colonial murder committed by the Sheriff's Department. And it's this long history that CURED was formed to expose and organize the people against. This is why when Jesse Nevel and I ran for local office here, we raised the black working class demand for black community control of the police, which included the removal of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department from operating within this city's limits. It was us, the Uhuru movement, who stood on the side of the impoverished Southside black community, protecting and defending our community against the slander machine known primarily as the Tampa Bay Times. We completely denounced the sheriff and local police department for the murders of African children when none of our other opponents would, including Mayor Rick Kreisman. It's these same murderous thugs that my community has been fighting to get off of our backs for ages. And just like everything else Kreisman has dragged in with his beyond corrupt administration, he approves the operation of the Sheriff's Departments in this city. When he has the ability to ban the Sheriff's Department from operating within city limits, Kreisman has instead invited this legacy of horror and abuse into the city of St. Pete to add to all the other offenses committed by his administration against the black community. So when sheriff's deputies murder black children in St. Pete, yes, we hold Kreisman fully responsible. It's this kind of relationship that Kreisman and his regime have with black people in this city that makes it possible for us to believe that there is a predator in City Hall. White nationalists within the police department, drunk domestic abusers in the Democratic Party. Kreisman lets them all in to wreak havoc on the black community. This is why he must resign. This is why Gualtieri must go, and we must stand with the black working class to demand black community control of the police and an end to the corruption within St. Pete City Hall. This is the mission of CURED, to build a people's movement, to fight back, and to win against these murderers, against these predators, these crooks, these gentrifiers. For a genuinely progressive city where no one is living at the expense of anyone else, it requires us to push the demand for Kreisman's removal from office and to build communities united for reparations and economic development. And that's why we're here today. And I would like to introduce Jesse Nevel, the Vice Chair of Communities United for Reparations and Economic Development. Uhuru.
I am here to express my profound unity with the demands of Communities United for Reparations and Economic Development for the immediate resignation of Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gualtieri and his partner in crime, the Mayor of St. Petersburg, Rick Kreisman. The hostility and predatory violence against black people in Pinellas County is not confined to the attitudes of some of Kreisman's highest paid city officials. It is the policy of the local government. It is the public policy of police containment, exemplified by the murderous deputies of the Sheriff's Department who stalk and prey on black teenagers with impunity. I am here to denounce, on behalf of every white person in this city, the blatant white vigilante murder of Marquise McLaughlin by Michael Drejka outside of the convenience store in Clearwater, Florida. Drejka is a killer, a murderer, but the blood is not only on his hands. the blood of Marquise McLaughlin stains the hands of Galtieri himself, who has stated that he will not even charge Drejka for the murder, invoking the white nationalist colonial Southern justice law known as Stand Your Ground, a justification for this cold-blooded murder. The Stand Your Ground law was created to deputize every white person, every white nationalist in this country with the legal right to kill a black person at our whim with impunity and get away with it. All you have to do if you're white is use the same cliche excuses that the police use every time they kill an African person. I feared for my life. This law does not apply to the countless Africans who have stood their ground against police brutality only to be imprisoned or murdered for their courageous stance of resistance. When Micah Johnson stood his ground, the law did not apply. And you know that if the roles were reversed, if Glockton had been the one to pull the trigger and Drejka the one to fall to his knees bleeding from his intestines, Glockton would be behind bars, if not strapped to an electric chair, if not killed on sight. Yeah. Stand Your Ground is a form of legal protection for the 21st century white lynch mob in a country where for over 100 years, thousands of white people acting as arms of the government, the state, lynched thousands of black human beings from trees and never faced an arrest, let alone a prosecution, including here in St. Petersburg. Galtieri's commitment to upholding the colonial violence and murder of African people is notorious. Well documented is his role in defending the deputies who murdered 3 teenage black girls in St. Petersburg and then joined with the Tampa Bay Times and the other local so-called media to slander and criminalize the victims. Communities United for Reparations and Economic Development is led by the black working class and calls on white people, such as myself and others here today, to stand in unconditional solidarity with the demands of the black community for reparations, for black community control of the police, and for the immediate removal of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department deputies from St. Petersburg city limits, and for the immediate resignation of Bob Galtieri, and for the immediate resignation of Mayor Rick Kreisman, who has shown nothing but unity with Galtieri from day one. White people must take a stand against the violence carried out by our government in our name. We say not one more black life destroyed by deputies, by police, or by everyday white nationalists in our name. Not one more black family forced to bury their loved one, whose life is robbed from their community by the callous violence of white people and white power. White people have to say, Galtieri, Kreisman, Drejka do not represent us. We are misrepresented by them. We are represented by the leadership of the black working class. We are represented by the leadership of CURED, fighting for a positive and beautiful vision of a city united through justice, reparations, and economic development for the black community. A positive public policy of economic development versus a negative public policy of police containment and violence and terror. The black community of Pinellas County, including the homeless black men who are forced to live on the streets of St. Petersburg as a result of Kreisman's gentrification policies, have a right to self-determination, political and economic power over their lives and communities, and to be free of the predatory violence committed against them by any government official, white vigilante, police, or sheriff's deputy. We will not be complicit with this any longer. We will not be the lynch mob loyal to our white ruling class. Solidarity with the black community, white solidarity with black power, and reparations to the African community. Galtieri and Kreisman must resign. Justice for Marquise McLaughlin, unity through reparations.
The world, and that will conclude today's press conference. Thank you all very much for coming out today, and for more information, you can visit info@curedfl.org, email us at that email. Thank you very much. The world.